All right, this is Let's Talk About It with Alice. Hello, everybody. We've got a great segment this afternoon. We are so excited for you. So please hit the share button. Share this with somebody. All right. Come on in the conversation with us. This is going to be live. We've got Terry on this afternoon. Yeah, Terry.
Hello, everyone.
Got Dr. Shawana Clark on. Hi, Shawana.
Yeah.
And we got our special guest, Dana Holmes. We got a lot of conversation. We are continuing with relationships. Oh my goodness. Real relationships. And we're so glad because Let's Talk About It is about life conversation. It is about being supportive. It is about sharing information. We always talk about our hot topics. It's about educational fun. This is Let's Talk About It. It's about our culture. It is about our life. So joining in with us on Let's Talk About It with Alice. Today, you are in for a treat. So you can jump in on this. Hey, this is live, okay? And we are very transparent on Let's Talk About It. So we thank you. Please hit the share button and join in the chat. All right, we ready to get started with some hot topics and what is really going on. All right. Okay, are y'all ready?
Let's do it.
Talk about it. Listen, don't forget, this month we've been celebrating. We've been celebrating Heart Health Month. We also been celebrating our Black history. It hasn't gone anywhere, y'all. It's still here, and we're still celebrating. I like to share this because last year was the first year that they recognized Juneteenth.
Yep.
Juneteenth.
Yay!
Now, I asked some young people just today, had they heard of Juneteenth? I'm talking teenagers, high schoolers. No, didn't even know what it was. That blew me away. So, as we know, that Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom, the anniversary of June 19th, 1865, the day enslaved, remember, enslaved people in Texas learned that they were free. First celebrated in Texas in 1866, Juneteenth commemoration spread it around the United States to honor the end of slavery in this country. It became a federal holiday. Check this out, people. Last year, June 2021, Juneteenth became a federal holiday, thanks in part to the longtime efforts of activist Oprah Lee. Oprah Lee said this: the fact is, none of us are free till we're all free. That's my moment in Black history. Did anybody else have anything? So
Well,
Juneteenth
before
is
you
coming
say
up
that,
in June.
yeah, so with Juneteenth, our goddaughter Erica, she does documentaries, and she actually did a documentary on Opal Lee. And so we will drop that documentary. It's up on YouTube. We'll drop that into our chat, so the people could actually go up and they can actually watch the documentary. It's very good. This was before people even knew who Opal Lee was. So we'll definitely drop it in there. But again, it was one that was done by Erica.
Well, please drop that in the chat because other people will be able to see it. So thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, Terry, do you have one that you would like to share?
The one that I would like to share is in 1944, the Navy began training its first Black officers. These men were so determined not to fail, they studied together by flashlight at night. Not only did all men pass their exams, but they also scored the highest average of any class in the Navy history at the time. The excellence of Golden 13 helped pave the way for President Truman to desegregate the military 4 years later.
Wow, that's awesome. No, as they say, I didn't know. No,
Yes.
I didn't know that. But
Mm-hmm.
when you really think about it, that we didn't hear a lot about Juneteenth either until recent
Nope.
years.
Yeah.
Here I am,
No.
72 years old, did not hear about Juneteenth until here recent years. So
Right.
Juneteenth is real.
Right. It
Yeah, and
is.
just think about it. And there's so many others that we can celebrate, and we know that we won't be able to celebrate them throughout this month, but there's so many. Yes.
Yeah. So now it's a national holiday, right?
It is a national holiday. It will be celebrated. This year will be the second year that Juneteenth will be celebrated as a national holiday.
Yay.
Yay! So we're excited about
We get it
that.
off.
As we continue to move along,
So let's
um,
move along.
was there any update on COVID? Anything? Anything?
Just a quick
Oh,
thing.
guess what? Who has COVID?
Oh,
Queen Elizabeth.
No.
oh,
Just found out this morning. Tested positive.
cool.
wow.
Wow.
I hope she's
Yes.
okay. That's
Me
for the
too.
family.
Yeah.
What,
That's
she's in her 90s, right?
Yes.
yes.
And not
Yeah.
sure if she was vaccinated or not.
Oh, I'm sure she probably was. I'm sure
I
she
hope
probably
so.
but the other update is, what are your thoughts about these vaccine mask wearing mandates pretty much being
Dropping.
removed? They're
I
going like
know.
for Christopher
That's
in school, it's optional. I think for Amira, it's the
Optional.
same.
It's
it's been
optional in
optional here
Texas.
too.
Pretty much is no
I can't
longer
hardly hear.
a mandate in Virginia for, or on Tuesday in Prince William County where we live. It will no longer be a mandate for students to wear masks in school. The teachers, however, have to wear masks, but the students do not. I find that to be quite interesting. But yeah, pretty much they're just rolling
Hmm.
the mandates
Yeah.
that people wear now. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm still wearing mines regardless. They can take them all off. I'm still
Well,
I'm
well,
not taking
here,
chances.
parents really, the schools and our governor has really released the schools to really, take the
Yep.
mask off. The students can take the mask off. You still have a few schools that just don't feel it and don't want
Mhm.
to, but our governor is full throttle.
Yeah.
That's where we are. Yeah. So
Mhm.
when you think about, that, hey, you just have to still be careful, still do your
Yep.
due diligence.
Mhm.
And we were given the KN95. Everybody was wearing the N95, but
Mhm.
they brought all of us and, a pack of KN95 masks that we will wear on our campus. So you don't just wear your regular mask. We have to
Gotta
wear
wear
the
that.
KN95.
I have yet to go by the store and just pick up some because they giving them to
Yes.
you free at the CVS's and the different drugstores. So I just need to go by and pick up some.
Well,
But
that's good at the drugstores. I went to Kroger and they said, no, that was a 1 day deal. We don't have any. I
Hmm.
said, really? That was at the
Wow.
pharmacy. They said, we don't have any. That was a 1 day deal. So we don't have any more.
a
They're
one
all gone.
day deal.
That's exactly what they said to me. All right. So, are we ready to move on? That's our update on COVID, our update on our Black history. So, we're ready. Dr. Shawana, are
Interesting.
you ready? We can't hear you. You're on mute. All right.
All right, so it is truly
So,
my pleasure to introduce you all to just such a dear, dear sister from another mother. My close friend, my children's godmom, just a special person, Dana Holmes. Dana is out of Dallas, Texas. The reason we are bringing Dana on is because she actually, a year and a half ago, went through a situation that we want to talk about, that we think that it is so important to share. And so it is my pleasure, my honor to introduce all of you guys to Dana Holmes. She is one of the talk show. She has a podcast. It's called Widow's Peak. Next chapter, and she's a widow. She's a widow. And I'll let Dana tell her own story. But this is the person that she's a widow to, close friend to Ian, my husband. And
Mhm.
so this touched home really closely. So Dana, welcome to Let's Talk About It with Alice.
Thank
Hey,
you. Thank
Dana.
you so much.
So
I'm so
just
excited to
before
be
Dana
here.
gets started, can I say something? I just think it's awesome that you're able to talk about this topic because it goes along with our relationship, okay? And not only with the widower, because you widow, as being a widow, you can share, with us on that. But we also gonna dive a little because we do have questions for you as it relates to divorce and how do you start again and just all of those topics that that women or that we all, not women but men too as well. So Dana, you go for it because I want to know
Thank you.
what that's like, and then how did you get started with your podcast? Let's go.
Great, great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a fan of the show. I love to hear you ladies talk each week, and I've learned so much. I've had the pleasure of knowing the family for over 20 plus years. So I've got to have many, many personal conversations with you, and especially you, Mom Alice. Gleaned so much from you, and my friendship with Shawana is just amazing. And Terry, you are amazing too. Um, as Shawana was saying, my late husband and I have been family, friends, and godparents to the Clark's clan, and they are godparents of our children as well, even the oldest, the 36-year-old, the 35-year-old, to my 15-year-old as well. And so I lost my husband about a year and a half ago. And every day is it's a process. Every day is a process. And so Widow's Peak is the vehicle in which I felt led, like the Holy Spirit one day, as I was talking to a close friend of mine who is also my co-host on the show, Widow's Peak. She and I have been friends for a long time. She lost her husband several years before I did, and so she's been very, very helpful with for me in this process, in this journey we call it. And we would get together and we would just talk about our husbands and talk about what we're going through and all these various topics and what do you do, with who's going to take care of the car, like still, like things that you didn't think of before, or what about social security, or what about this and what. And so we would sit for hours upon hours talking about these topics. And one day I in the middle of the night, it came to me, it was like the Holy Spirit said, there's comfort in conversation. And
Mm.
I said, yeah, I do find comfort in those conversations. And it came to me like, well, what about other women who don't have someone to talk to like she and I do? And what if you did this podcast really to reach people who are in your position, to help encourage them and inspire them, to talk about the journey? Sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's laughter, it's just memories, and that's how the podcast came about,
Wow.
with me pulling the other person because she's um she's an introvert and she's really, really personal. So it was nothing but the Holy Spirit in me and in her that led us to do this, because we both were like, we don't want to do this right now.
Right.
But I felt like it would help so many people, and also us,
Right.
get through
Right.
this.
So how do you
Yeah.
find, I guess my question, how do you find life after death? And what I mean by that, how do you continue to move
Hmm.
on? Because I'm thinking that even with divorce, they always say that a divorce is sort of like, a pulling away, because you become one, and then now it's that
Mhm.
pulling away. It's the same thing. So how do you move on from that?
Definitely, definitely. Each day again, each day is a process. It's a journey. Um, just finding hope in other things. You know, the podcast gives me hope. I look forward to talking about these topics because I learn a lot. We have, you know, some guests on that will be talking about, you know, estate planning, finance, you know, children. Um, just
Relationship.
other relationships. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that too. But so I look forward, like, you know, just having something to look forward to each day gives me hope and gives me joy. My children seeing the legacy that, you know, my late spouse left, and having us fulfill that. Um, as you know, and you guys knew him, but you know he was very, very inspiring and encouraging. Um, and there
Well,
is
this is a
no
man that
way I
traveled
could
all over the
let that
world.
light right. It was no way I could let that light, you know, dim that he put in all of us. So just carrying on that legacy, and then just speaking my truth, just speaking about the feelings that, you know, a widow goes through, the different thoughts, and, you know, planning, like, you know, what is life after that? What is I like to say that one of the things the podcast shows that we did was understood. I understood my assignment, and I
Oh,
understood my
Mm.
assignment as a wife. I felt, and I told my
mm.
husband we had been married for 24 years prior to his death, and I remember it was like my 16th year. I told him that I felt like I was assigned to him. I felt
Oh,
that
wow.
I was assigned to him because every every process, everything that we went through, every step of the way, you know, we did that together. It wasn't a struggle, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't that, you know, I believe that I was just born to be his wife, but the
Mhm.
assignment as his wife, I was, you know, I carried out every last one of my vows, you know, even unto death. And so God gave me the strength to do that. And so we just being able to talk about those things, and I'm hearing so much from single people. I'm hearing back from men, um, you know, audiences that I didn't think this podcast would reach. We're actually touching them. I'm hearing people saying that they value their relationships and their spouses more, you know,
Oh,
after
wow.
hearing the
See, that's good.
podcast. And
Mm.
yes, and
Dana,
That's a good
my
thing.
children listen to it.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
quick
Shauna.
question.
And
When
my
do you,
uh-huh.
one of your podcasts was about taking off the ring. When
Wow.
did you
Wow.
Hmm.
decide to, have you decided to take off the ring? Like, what was that process like?
So so we call it ring cam sometimes. So I'll do that.
Mhm.
So it's like it's not my wedding ring, but it's a anniversary ring that I was given, and we really discussed, you know, when is the time to take off the ring? Is there a time?
Mm.
And what do you do with it? You know, what do you do with it? And so in that podcast, we explored that, you know, it's really up to that person, the widow or widower, whenever you feel like you are ready. There is no right or wrong answer to that. A lot of times I get that question, or people just glance down at my ring finger
Mhm.
to see if I have it on. We explore, like, why do people ask that question? Is that their way of seeing if you have moved on, you know, where you are in the process? And it doesn't define that. It really is about, what did you feel like that day? You know, sometimes
Mhm.
you feel
Right.
closer to them because you have it on. Sometimes you wear it because you don't want to be approached. And for me, I wear a ring on this finger. I've been so used to it. I slept in my wedding ring. So it was always my grounding finger. You know, if you do public speaking or any type of work, you know, if you're nervous, you kind of like move that ring, and that ring had always brought me so much comfort and strength and confidence
So what
um
about
in my mhm.
No, I didn't want you to stop. I'm going to ask another question.
Okay. Go ahead. Ask the question.
Okay. So, yeah. So, what about the vows? Until death do us apart. And where does that take people after there's been the death do apart? Does that
Uh,
free? I mean, do you? And I know that's hard. That gives that freedom. It's okay that you can
mhm.
move on.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, the death do us part. Uh, that's a good question. Um, you understand that, but it doesn't necessarily give you that catapult, right? That life is you're freelancing, you're out there now. You still feel the commitment and the loyalty, to a
Mm,
relationship,
wow,
and to your family. You know, you still feel like a wife. You
wow.
really carried yourself as a wife for so long that you still feel that. So it doesn't just end, when it ends. And I'm sure as divorced women and men probably feel the same way.
Yeah.
But over time, I believe you start to feel that
Yes.
independence where you know it's okay.
Okay. Have you felt that?
Um, have I felt that? I through conversations with my children, them saying that, mom, dad would not want you to spend the rest of your life alone and to be alone. And I'm okay if if you were to date. I'm okay with that. And I know deep down that that's how my husband felt. So when the time is right, opportunity presents itself. I think I can. I believe
Okay.
I will.
Do you
Well, I'll
think that
I
it's
just.
never say
different
never.
for men versus women in terms of like the time and
Oof.
all of that?
I do. I've actually did some studying, and I don't have my stats with me right here, but I did. There is a going to be a podcast coming up where we'll discuss that, and it is men or widowers tend to um, remarry at a higher rate than widows than female counterparts,
I
and
believe
um,
that.
and and much quicker as well, and much quicker as well.
And I
Um,
think it's the same for divorcee as well.
really, yes, yes.
It's the same. They go get them.
Exactly. And I think society is more accepting of that, and I don't know if it's because more women have the responsibility of the children or the loyalty to the spouse. I'm not sure what that is, but in my research, I have found that it's more likely for a man to remarry sooner, younger, and much quicker than a widow.
Hmm.
Wow.
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 How do you maintain the relationship with the in-laws of the deceased spouse?
Yes. Same with this.
Well, I think with all relation, I'll say mine. I've always been the spouse that kept that family, that the family together, the communication, the holidays. Um, so I've maintained that throughout, these couple of years, and just really like staying plugged in, keeping the family up to date with what's going on with our family, our children, and holidays, reaching out to family members. But it's you know it's life is busy,
Mhm.
and so we just try to use all these vehicles that we have, technology, to keep in touch with everyone.
Okay.
Right.
Mom, you were saying we talked, that, you were saying similar to when a person pass away. It's not similar, but there's some similarities and that you still
Mhm.
move on. You were a divorcee. How did you transition, on from your divorces?
Well, I think for me, I had children, and they tend to kind of keep you busy, and a lot of times you stay busy. But I think what really helped me was being in the church. What really helped me was being a believer, and knowing that what God has for me is for me, and
Mhm.
that and then had to accept my part, and then understand the other person's part. And so that just kind of helped me to move forward. But it's still as if, it was a period of time that you still felt like you were, that you couldn't move on. And you just have to, pick back up and think. You have to pick back up. You have to stop. You have to think. You have to reassess. And then you get to that point that, okay, it's time. Because I've, been transparent. I've been married 3 times. So and I don't glory in that at all. And I always say, okay, what's the common denominator here? Here. But I do understand that things happen. And what I do
Mhm.
know, that some relationships are not of God, okay? And sometimes we want to make something work and make something fit, and it that's not what it needs to be. And so you have to come to
Mhm.
that. And so I understand that a whole lot, in terms of knowing that it is God and the timing of God, and waiting on Him to move us rather than we step out and move ourselves. And many times, you know, I'm understanding that, and I understand that better. But yes, how did I move on? I had to realize, assess myself, and assess the whole situation, and then
Mhm.
wait on that time. And you will know, when you're open and you're ready, but you want it to be within God's own time.
Mm, I guess
Yeah.
that's could go both ways,
Right.
whether
Mhm.
you're, have a deceased spouse or
Are you having
you've
to
already
divorce?
gone through divorce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
divorce.
What about those times
Yeah.
and spaces, Dana, when you just really, really miss? Um,
Mhm.
what do you do then?
Um. Wow. Well, I mean, for the most part, that's every day. That's every minute. That's his absence is known every minute of my life. Um, 27 years together, 24 years married. That's more than half of my life. So
Wow.
every decision that I made, for past 27 years included him, almost,
Yeah.
or affected him. So, this just always constant thought. But missing him, I have so many memories that I think of those memories a lot. My children and I and friends, we just reflect on stories because we keep them alive through those stories. I don't necessarily, if you listen, sometimes I don't really reference him in depth a lot about, it's really like as if he's still here because those stories bring me so much comfort, and I just he feels present to me and
Mhm.
real and live. So I pray, but it's early on when I felt when we lost him, it was so heavy that I knew if I allowed that heaviness to remain, that I
Yeah.
wouldn't be any good. I wouldn't be any
Exactly.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I really had to, um, through prayer, through counseling. I've done counseling for years. if anyone's against it, I highly recommend it, just for
Yeah.
life. Just as a woman, as a career woman, I just always had a great therapist, and who also was our relationship therapist. And so, even speaking to him, he's able to remind me of some things because he counseled both of us. So he's when I'm feeling that depleted or lonely, or wondering this or that, he's able to remind me some of those things that were said in our sessions. And
Yeah.
so, my children, I find comfort in that, being around
Yeah,
them
I
and
think
being
that's
around
it.
my friends,
Yeah.
and really just setting those goals. Like when I'm missing him, I know how much he wanted us to grow, to prosper, to
Right.
experience
Right.
life.
Right.
And
Right.
Zanoran was a traveler. He traveled the world,
Yeah.
and he wanted us and wanted the children to experience, world travel. So we we take things with us that are his when we travel, so he can experience those with us. I read his journals. He journaled everything throughout his life. When I met him in college, he journaled, and he journaled up until his last week. So I can go back to a period of time, um, just to see what his thoughts were,
Yeah.
and
Can
and
I
Wow.
they were
ask
his
you
personal
another?
thoughts. So I have those with me as well, that makes them feel real to me.
I was
Wow.
wondering if we had some people that was out there that's in our audience, and so maybe there's some women that may be there who have had similar experience. You and young women who are
Mhm,
widows. I mean, young women, and I'd love for you to put in the chat. Maybe just one or two things that you reflect on, and the things, and how did you move on, or have you moved
mhm,
on? Are you thinking about moving on? And that kind of thing, because life does go on, and
yeah.
I feel that when you get to that point, then you cross over that hurdle. Then it's time for
Mhm,
another life. It's time for a new
yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
Time,
Yeah.
and so with that new journey, we can't go into a new journey with fear or comparison, things like
Mhm,
that. So I think that once we get to a certain point, that we
mhm,
realize that life happens, and when it does, God always gives us the grace to be able to move forward, and He's waiting on us. Okay,
mhm,
waiting on us to take that step forward. So I was just wondering, how even with what relationships, we're just talking about relationships, whether it's in death, whether it's in a divorce, whatever it could be. If you're single now, where are you in this space of time that we're in? Because dating is different now, and even for the baby boomers out there like myself,
mhm,
you know who maybe you want to move on, then boom,
You
mhm,
said boom.
and
mhm,
so, but it is totally different out there on every
It
level.
is
It is totally different.
totally.
mhm. Wow.
Well,
So,
Dana, we're so grateful that you came on to just share your story, or part of your story. We really didn't dig into really the meat of everything, but
Right.
I'm curious of your words that you would just share. Any lasting words, before we get off, that you would want to
Mhm.
encourage people with
All
your
right.
journey.
Mhm. Sure. I would just, wherever you are in the spectrum, whether it's you recently lost your spouse, or you have been a widow for over 10 years, that love never fades. You will always have that love, but I just pray that you stay encouraged. You find comfort in conversations with your family, with your friends, about where you are. You create, a plan for your life. How you're moving forward, what you can look forward to. in your future, because I believe hope gives us life. And as you are able to focus on that next chapter, that next journey, it's not that you're leaving that person behind or forgetting that person, but it's really showing yourself and your family like love, right? You are growing. Every day is a challenge for all of us, but you can make it through. And whether I can be of help or of some sort of service through Widow's Peak Next Chapter, our podcast is on all the podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify. We're also on Facebook, Widow's Peak Next Chapter. We have a telephone number, an email address that you can reach out to us. We respond quickly. We would just really like to be that vehicle, that extension of your family, of your friends, to help you through this journey as we also, um, uh, tackle this next chapter in our life as well.
All right.
To stay encouraged.
That's so
Thank
good.
you.
That's
Thank you for
awesome.
having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, this has been Let's Talk About It with Alice, with Dana Holmes. Thank you, Dana. And we also will put in, if we have not already put in the chat, but are there any questions in the chat? Anything? Any comments?
Yeah, there were a couple of comments. So Michelle Webb, there were some comments earlier that she was making, but one that she just put down was continue prayers for you, Miss Dana, and your family as you move forward
Thank you.
and continue to help others who may be widowed. And she just said blessings to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So this has been Let's Talk About It with Alice. And we're so excited to have brought you something that you probably wasn't expecting, but it was a part of relationships. And how do you move on from, whether it's a divorce, whether it's, another relationship, whether it's a death of a spouse, you can move on. We've got everything that's, you can reach out to Miss Dana. I think that would be great. And so we always say to you, love,
Peace
Peace
and
and increase.
increase.
to everyone. This has been Let's Talk About It with Alice. And don't forget, we love you, and we will be back next week with another powerful Let's Talk About It with Alice. We are going forward because we know that as we end this month, which is the month of love, relationships, which is our month of Black history and heart health, this is a part of the heart, relationships. All right, goodbye. Thank you for joining us. Please share this. Please share it.
See you next week.
Next week.